I'm making a change today. The liquor been taking the pain away. I heard you was giving your chain away. That's kind of like giving your fame away. What's wrong with you? I sit in a box with
What's up, guys? Broski Gamers here. Kane on everything today. You're not used to it, but gotta do what you gotta do. So I'm coming at you with a long awaited drop. Now, I do want to preface this by saying this is not the final iteration of this, as the final is actually in our, well, not our, but my Master Duel account. But you already know what it is. Spicy little prank kids build for you. And we'll just jump right into it. So first up, we got a triple Fansies. Of course, this one right here, pretty great. All of them activate by being used as link or fusion material. And what this one will do is when it's used as link or fusion material, you can inflict 500 points of burn damage. Burn damage. And then special summon another Prank Kids card or a Prank Kids monster from your deck. Next up, triple Roxy's. Same thing, except this one, what you'll be doing is banishing one card from your hand, drawing one, and then special summoning. Next up, triple Dropsies, which these will come in handy later on, and I'll explain why, but this one right here will actually boost you by 1,000 life points, and then special out one more. And then finally, triple Fansies. Now what Fansies will do is you'll send one card, one Prank Kids card from your deck to grave, and then you'll special out a Prank Kids monster. Next up, we got triple Parallel Exceed. Now in this version, in our, I would say budget version here in person, I run triple Parallel Exceed. I don't know the price of this. I don't think it's very bad. But in my finalized version, I actually only run 2, and this is gonna be critical to moving into some of your rank 4s and later on in the extra deck. Next up, we got our hand traps. Triple Droll, pretty useful. In person, like in real life, I really don't get to use Droll as much as I want. I actually do oftentimes use it as fodder for my Prank Kids Roxy's. I think it's an especially good card for that. Next up, you got double Ghost Bell. Speaks for itself. And if you don't know what these cards do, go watch one of our older videos. You've been here too long. Like Bestie, you've been here way too long to not know what these cards do. Double Effect Veiler, double Ash Blossom. Now, I believe the ratios are the same when I transition on to Master Duel for the hand traps, but if you're interested in that footage, please let me know, and I can, I guess, record that for you. Like, I mean, if you're wanting Master Duel footage, we got it. Next up, triple Prank Kids Place. Now, this is the field spell of the whole deck, and it's a pretty sick card, really. So, first of all, artwork pretty crazy, but when it's activated, you add one Prank Kids monster and to your hand, of course. Then once per turn, if you fusion summon a Prank Kids fusion monster, except during the damage step, you can have all of your monsters gain 500 attack, and that's applicable even if this leaves the field. And then if you link summon a monster, Prank Kids monster, sorry, then you can have your opponent's monsters lose 500. And then, you know, those can just be kind of like done over and over. Now, oftentimes I use this one as like as a chain blocker on Master Duel, which is pretty great because most people aren't going to waste anything for a little stat boost, right? And this stat boost right here specifically is like just enough, and oftentimes you can actually activate both effects of the you can activate the effects of Prank Kids Place pretty easily. Next up, you got Prank Kids Pranks. So what you can do is discard one Prank Kids card and special summon a Prank Kids token. Now it's zeroed out, but whatever, it can't be tributed. And then during your end phase, this is the key move right here, you can target 3 Prank Kids cards in your grave, and then shuffle them into your deck. After that, you draw 1 card. Really, really great. And it's so easy to dump all of your Prank Kids into the grave that this is never something you have to worry about. Next up, we got triple Prank Kids Pandemonium, which is a quick play fusion. And so it's just, I mean, of course, I don't know what to tell you. Like, it's literally just a fusion for Prank Kids. And that's what's really awesome, is it's quick play, and oftentimes I do use it in battle step just to kind of end things. Next up, got a single pot of desires. Now I have this in both my real and Master Duel decks, but I don't use it as much as I probably should. It's to make everything a little bit more consistent, but I very rarely run into a problem with that. Like, consistency with this deck is actually pretty great. So it's never anything that you have to do. It's just a good tech card to add in. Next up, again, this is the budget version, so we run 3 Polymerization cards, and yeah, I don't know what else you want me to explain about that. Like, I don't know what you're confused about, like 3 polymerizations. In the Master Duel version, I do run like 2, I believe, and oftentimes this is kind of the same as Droll, where if I have this in my hand, and I use the effect of, say, a Roxy's, then I'll just go ahead and banish that, because I don't care if that's there, really, especially with Pandemonium being in my deck. And Prank Kids Pranks being able to recycle just Prank Kids cards in general. Next up is an instant fusion, which is a really great way to go straight into some of your Prank Kids fusion cards, because they all have tribute effects, and instant fusion isn't going to stand in the way of that. So if you want to, like, you know, bring out your Rocket Ride or anything like that, tribute it off for its effect, you can. Next up, Call by the Grave, single, self-explanatory. Next up, double Twin Twister. And this right here is a really great placeholder. Now, of course, it does have the stipulation of discarding 1 card, but honestly, I couldn't tell you how many times I get things like this, and discarding a Prank Kids card is not the worst thing in the world, because again, Prank Kids Pranks will let you like bring them back anyway. That's the reason why we went with this, but you could easily swap this out for an MST, and our preferred card, actually, instead of this, is Cosmic Cyclone. That 1,000 points is nothing. Of course, if you're worried about life points in this day and age, you're a joke. And then the final card we have here is Prank Kids Plan. Now, I'm full disclosure, I don't use this as much as I should, but it's a great card. Now, to sum it up, basically, after this card, like after this effect, you like immediately link summon a Prank Kids Link monster, using cards you control as material, and then whenever your opponent's monster, I believe it is, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can banish this card from your grave, shuffle any number of Prank Kids cards from your graveyard into the deck, and if you do, that attacking monster loses 100 attack for each card shuffled until the end of this turn. So it's really, really great. Again, a lot of these cards get put into the grave in Prank Kids Plan, and Prank Kids Pranks are really great ways of just putting them back into rotation. And of course, here's what you're all waiting for, the extra deck, which is pretty nice, but I will say the TCG kind of has me like fucked up with Prank Kids Meow Meow being limited to 1. Hopefully on the next ban list it gets dropped, because Meow Meow deserves better than that. So single Meow. Next up, we got 2 copies of Prank Kids Doodle Doodle Doo. Really great card. Now, Prank Kids Meow Meow, what it'll do is whenever a link, or whenever a Prank Kid's monster would tribute itself for an effect. You can banish this from the field or the grave and use that instead. So you can only like summon one of these per turn. And that's like the really big drawback to Prank Kid's Meow Meow, which is why I don't think it should be limited. If this didn't have the stipulation that you can only link summon one per turn, then it would be fine, but it's pretty hard to justify this being limited, at least in the current format. But the OCG and Master Duel really perfect. Next up, Doodle Doodle Doo. So whenever it's linked summon, you can add one Prank Kid spell trap, and that's really handy because it's very easy to link into. Next up, you can tribute this card and then target 2 Prank Kids cards with different names in your grave, except for link monsters. Add them to your hand, and that's it. So next up, my ace is Prank Kid's Bow Wow Bark. I know that might seem kind of crazy, but Prank Kid's Bow Wow Bark is a really great card. First and foremost, 2 Prank Kids monsters, easy link 2 at 2,000. And like any Prank Kids monster that this card points to will get a 1,000 point attack boost. Now, during your opponent's turn, quick effect, you can tribute this card, target 2 Prank Kids cards with different names in your grave except for link monsters, add them to your hand. Also, Prank Kids monsters you control can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects this turn. So this, in conjunction with Meow Meow, is a pretty stellar move, because no one can just destroy your monster with card effects. And that's one of the biggest things that I noticed people try to do with my pranks online. I don't know if it's just because they aren't familiar with the deck or what. Next up is the link for Prank Kids Rip Roar and Roaster. You can see it's a dragon, so it had to be fire. And so this essentially quick effect, tribute it, and then just destroy all your opponent's back row. And if this is sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card, you can target 1 card in your graveyard, except the link monster, add it to your hand. And you can only use the effect once per turn, which that's the thing with all of them. It's their effects only work once per turn, which is fine because that's really all you need, especially considering you can go into so many so easily. Next up, 2 copies of Prank Kids Rocket Ride. Now, if it's fusion summoned, you can have it lose 1,000 attack points, and it can attack directly this turn. So you can tribute this card, then target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters with different names in your grave, special summon them, but they can't attack this turn. And then double copies of Prank Kids Weather Washer, which if your Prank Kids monster attacks, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step, which has meant this right here has been a game winner. This card right here, Weather Washer, with Bow Wow Bark is the most lethal combo that you can really kind of think of, especially considering you can quick effect tribute this card, target 2 Prank Kids non-fusion monsters with different names in your graveyard, special them out, and then they can't be destroyed by battle this turn. Come on now. What's going on here? Next up, we got double copies of Prank Kids Battle Butler. Battle Butler is the same as Rip Roar and Roaster, but it clears out the monsters. This is the only card in the Prank Kids archetype that has an animation on Master Duel, but I will say that the animation is so satisfying because it's just the silliest ass. It's so funny to see this card hit the field and just know that no one knows what's going on with it. Now, last 3 cards, we have Abyss Dweller, standard, you already know what this does. Next up, Toad, again, you know what this does. And this is the important thing that I was talking about with the Prank Kids Dropsies. If you can special out 2, which is very easy, you can just go straight into your Toad, and then Nibiru is just nothing. Which of course is a big deal because this deck does capitalize on special summoning. And finally, we have number 41, Baguska, the terribly tired taper. Now, if you don't remember, this card has 2 effects based on its battle position, and you have to detach 1 materia from this card during your standby phase. It's not optional, and if you can't, you have to destroy it. But when it's in attack position, it can't be destroyed by your opponent's card effects. Your opponent can't target it with card effects, and while it's in defense position, you change all face-up monsters on the field to defense position, and you negate the activated effects of monsters that were in defense position when their effect was activated. So it's pretty lethal, pretty suppressive, and these 2 right here are primarily brought out by your Parallel Exceed. If you want to use your Roxy's, you can, but it's not something that I would necessarily do, just because Parallel Exceed isn't meant specifically for that. So that's it. If you want to see that Master Duel footage, please let us know. We've got some extra spicy builds coming up, and yeah, if you want to see anything more related to Prank Kids or any of the future projects that we have, hit us up. We appreciate you. As always, thank you so much if you made it to the end of the video, and hope you have a great day. Peace out.